Okay, and I've seen when I've read your books, at least for me, it was a pleasant surprise to see that you include also culture as a tool to follow in the rationality. Could you explain maybe what's the link between culture and rational or decision making, human decision making?
So some of the heuristics we use are social. So for instance, do whatever your peers do. Can be good or bad idea, that's another question. So you mimic the culture. Or a very simple example. Some men, when they are looking for a partner, a woman, how do you choose the right partner? There's no optimization technique, and it has been long known that some of men use a very simple heuristic. Go after the women that your own peers desire. And that also has some cultural, because if you succeed, you can be sure that the others will admire you and her, and you fit in this specific subculture. Another aspect is that unlike what we read in textbooks, that every day we do 10,000 decisions, that's whatever it means, it's probably not true, because culture prevents us from doing these decisions, or in other words, it helps us not bothering with decisions. So how to dress, how to address other people, what to do with the rest of your life. We often don't think about that, but we follow some kind of cultural defaults. And this is another function of culture.
In culture and ecological rationality, I think it demands to look at how humans beings have adapted to difficult conditions in the past. Maybe it kind of resembles an evolutionary perspective. How is it possible, I was wondering, to produce scientific evidence of how our ancestors' behavior is related to our current rationality?
So ecological rationality doesn't mean or imply an evolutionary story. It's about the present. But in some cases, one can at least make a plausibility argument. For instance, take the anxiety that many people have in situations where lots of people die in a short of time. So a plane crash, for instance, or 9/11. And this anxiety is very specific. It's not about dying, because if the same number of people or more die distributed over the year, then it's very hard to elicit anxiety, like in smoking, car driving, or motorbikes. It seems to be a very specific rule, so avoid situations where many people die together in a short time. And here now you can argue, why is this? And evolution can give us a story that is very hard to prove, but at least a plausible story. The story is, at times when humans were in small groups, like 50 to 100, the sudden death of a large part of this group could threaten the survival of the rest. This type of situation is no longer relevant today, but it seems to be that these anxieties are still left. Whether that is true, we know some parts. We have good evidence that there were small groups, and the rest in this case is speculation. I checked the numbers after 9/11 and wrote a paper on that. An estimated 1,600 people died in the year afterwards. So 1,600 more than normal, by trying to avoid the risk of flying. So it's a good example that if people understand the psychology, so this type of rules, if many people die in one short time, avoid it, show anxiety, then that will not prevent anxiety, but it at least, after a night's sleep, can make you think and not jumping from the frying pan into the fire.